The morning Diep discovered the truth was strangely calm, too calm, as if the world were holding its breath before a storm. She stood in the small garden behind her house, the breeze lifting the loose strands of hair around her face. The sunlight was soft, the air fresh, yet her heart beat with a trembling urgency she could not explain. Just an hour earlier, she had overheard a conversation she was never meant to hear. It was Father James. His voice was colder than she had ever imagined. "I did what I had to do. If James ever finds out the whole story, everything will collapse." Those words hit her like a falling tree. She didn't mean to listen. She didn't want to know. But the truth, once revealed, refuses to return to silence. Diep pressed her hand against her chest, trying to steady the pounding inside. She had always felt Father James disliked her, even feared her presence in his son's life. But now she understood. The hostility wasn't about her. It was about something much deeper, something buried in the past. And somehow, she was now part of it. She replayed the fragments she heard. A debt, a piece of land, his family, and the homeless man. It didn't make sense yet, but the meaning was clear. James's father had hidden something terrible, something that shaped the rift between him and his son, something that could destroy everything James had built. Diep pressed her hand against her chest, the truth burning painfully behind her eyelids. She knew she could walk away, pretend she knew nothing. She could wait for James to come home and tell him quietly, safely. But another part of her, stronger, braver, whispered, "If I don't face him now, James will suffer alone." That was something she could never allow. She stepped back inside the small living room. Her hands were shaking slightly as she grabbed her bag. A chill ran through her spine, but her decision was firm. She had to confront Father James. She had to do it alone. As she locked the door behind her, she glanced at her phone. No messages, no missed calls. James hadn't contacted her since early morning. She told herself he was probably in a meeting or dealing with some work at the construction site. But a whisper of worry curled through her chest. "Where are you, James? And why does my heart feel like something is wrong?" Diep started the engine of her motorbike, the roar filling the quiet air. She looked straight ahead, determination in her eyes. Today, she would face Father James. Today, she would demand answers. But she didn't know, couldn't know, that at this very moment, James was miles away, standing on the edge of a danger he never saw coming. The gate of the James estate stood tall and cold, like a wall meant to keep people like her out. Diep hesitated only for a heartbeat before pushing it open. The sound of metal echoed sharply in the empty courtyard, a warning, perhaps, or a challenge. She stepped inside. The air was heavier here, silent. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Father James was sitting on the porch, reading documents with a calmness that made Diep's stomach tighten. He lifted his eyes slowly when he sensed her presence. Surprise flickered briefly across his face, then vanished. "So," he said, voice clipped, "you came." Diep swallowed. "I need to talk to you." "About what?" He leaned back, crossing his arms. "About money? About marrying my son? About pretending to belong in a world that isn't yours?" His tone was a blade, sharp, cold, intentional. Diep's hands curled tightly at her sides, but her voice remained steady. "I heard what you said this morning." Silence fell instantly. Father James's expression hardened. "What exactly did you hear?" "That James doesn't know the truth, and that everything could collapse if he does." Her breath trembled, but she pressed on. "You also mentioned debt, land, and someone who knows about me since I was small. What does that mean? What does any of it have to do with me?" For the first time, Father James's mask cracked, just slightly. But instead of answering, he stood up. He walked down the steps until he was standing just a meter away from her, towering over her like a shadow. "You should not have listened," he said quietly. "Maybe, but I did, and I deserve to know." "No," his voice sharpened. "What you deserve is to stay far away from my son. You are the reason danger keeps circling him. You are the reason he refuses to leave this country. You are a weakness he cannot afford." Diep felt the sting, but she continued to meet his eyes. "You're wrong. I would never harm James." "That's what you believe, but you do not know the truth about your past or your family's past, and if James discovers it, everything he worked for will fall apart." Her heart twisted painfully. "What truth? Tell me." Father James shook his head slowly. "You think my cruelty is the enemy, but the real enemy is the truth itself. And once it reaches James, my son will be ruined." Her breath caught. "Then let me carry it. Tell me. Not him. I can handle it." A bitter smile touched the corner of his lips. "You're brave. Foolishly brave." He stepped even closer, his voice lowering to a cold whisper. "If James were here, he would take your hand and protect you from everything. But he isn't. And he won't be. Because right now—" He paused. A flicker of something dark crossed his eyes. "Something has already happened." Diep froze. "What do you mean? Where is James?" Father James didn't answer. Instead, he turned away, as if the conversation had ended. Diep felt her knees weaken. Her mind raced, fear surging through her chest. Something had happened. Something Father James knew. Something she wasn't supposed to hear, not yet. She took a step forward. "Where is James? Tell me." Father James's voice remained emotionless. "You should pray he comes back." The words struck her like lightning. Then, a sudden sound broke the heavy air. A phone vibrating inside the house. A ringtone she recognized. Diep's eyes widened. It was James's ringtone. The familiar ringtone echoed through the quiet house like a warning. Diep felt her pulse leap painfully as she turned toward the doorway. "That's—" her voice trembled. "That's James's phone." Father James didn't move, didn't blink, didn't deny it. Diep hesitated only a second before rushing past him and into the house. The interior was too large, too silent. Every sound she made bounced off the cold marble floors. Her heartbeat was loud enough to drown out the world. The ringtone was coming from the living room. She followed the sound, breath shallow, until she saw it. James's phone, lying on the glass coffee table, screen lit. A call from Duan, office. Her chest tightened as if invisible hands were squeezing it. If James was abroad, If James had left suddenly, why was his phone here? She reached for it with trembling fingers. Father James appeared in the doorway, expression unreadable. "You shouldn't touch that," he said. She ignored him. Her thumb hovered a moment before she answered the call. "James? James, are you there?" Duan's voice rang through, rushed and tense. Diep swallowed. "It's me, Diep." A beat of stunned silence. "Diep? Why do you have his phone? Where's James? He was supposed to check in hours ago." Her breath caught fire in her lungs. "Check in? Where is he? What happened?" I thought he'd told you. He never reached the Cambodian border. He disappeared after leaving the main road. GPS shows his car stopped near the old industrial area. And after that, nothing." Diep felt her knees turn to water. "He's missing?" "We don't know, but something is wrong. This isn't like James." The world tilted. Cold crept through her veins. Behind her, Father James remained silent, but the tension in his jaw told her everything. He knew. He knew more than he had said. "Duan," she rasped, trying to steady her voice. "I'll call you back." She ended the call. The room grew painfully still. She slowly turned to face Father James. "Why didn't you tell me?" she whispered. His eyes hardened, not with anger, but with something far more dangerous. "He left the country because of me, and because of the people watching me. The less you know, the safer you remain." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Safe? You think I'm safe now? James is missing." "Exactly, which is why you must step away. Leave him, leave this family, before the truth destroys you both." "No." Her voice cracked, but did not break. "I love him. I'm not leaving." Father James exhaled, long and heavy, as if burdened by a truth too painful to carry. "Love," he said, almost softly. "But you don't understand what's coming. Your past, James's past, mine, they are intertwined in a way you cannot begin to imagine." Diep's heart pounded. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. Not directly. Instead, he walked to a drawer, pulled out a thin envelope, and placed it on the table next to James's phone.
James stood in the doorway, chest heaving, clothes dusty as if he had run miles without stopping. When his eyes found Diep, wide, frightened, trembling beside his father, his whole body tightened. "Diep, are you okay?" His voice broke with panic. She nodded, though nothing inside her felt steady. "James, you're alive!" He crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled her into his arms. The moment her face pressed against his chest, her knees almost buckled. His heartbeat thundered against her cheek, raw, real, alive. "I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But Father James' cold voice sliced through the moment. "Enough! You shouldn't have come back." James turned, shielding Diep behind him. "What the hell did you say to her?" Father James didn't flinch. "The truth. Something you've been too cowardly to reveal." The words lit a fuse inside James. "Cowardly?" His fists clenched. "I nearly died because of the mess you created. Men came after me, armed. They chased me off the main road. They tried to force my car into the river. I had to ditch the vehicle and run through an industrial zone to lose them." Diep gasped, hand flying to her mouth. You were attacked?" James nodded, jaw tight. "It was planned. Someone wanted me gone, and I can guess exactly who." His eyes locked onto his father. Father James inhaled deeply, as if preparing for impact. His silence was an answer. Diep's fingers gripped James's sleeve. "Your father, he wouldn't—"
"He didn't hire killers," James said bitterly. "But he did hire someone to drag me out of Vietnam, someone desperate enough to work for him." He paused. "And someone who betrayed him by warning me." Shock rippled through the room. Father James's face hardened. "I was trying to protect you." "By ripping me away from the woman I love?" James exploded. "By threatening her life? By making deals with criminals?" His voice cracked with fury and heartbreak. Diep remained behind him, trembling, but her gaze fixed fiercely at Father James. "Why?" she whispered. "Why destroy your own son's happiness?" Father James finally broke. Not loudly, not violently, but with a quiet, exhausted truth that tasted like steel and regret. "Because," he said, "your fates were tied long before you met. Your family suffered because of decisions I made. Your life, the hardship you endured, part of that was my doing." Diep stared at him as if struck. "What do you mean?" James turned sharply. "Bah, don't!" "She deserves to know," Father James insisted. "Your mother and I, we built our fortune partly on land that wasn't ours, land taken from families who were powerless to fight back." Diep's breath hitched. Her grandparents? Their land? Their sudden poverty? The pieces slammed together. A truth she had never imagined now crushed the air from her lungs. Father James looked at her with something like remorse. "Your family was one of them." For a long moment, the world was silent. Then James stepped closer to her, voice shaking. "Diep, I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know." She looked up at him, eyes full of pain and love tangled together. "I believe you. But this truth, it hurts." He cupped her face gently, desperately. "I don't care about the past. I just want a future with you." The tension between them pulled tight like a wire. Behind them, Father James stared at the floor, suddenly old, suddenly human. But Diep stood straighter, lifting her chin. Her voice was quiet, but unwavering. "I'm not leaving, James. Not because of your past. Not because of fear. Not because you want us apart." She turned fully to James, taking his hand. "Whatever storm comes, we face it together." Father James exhaled a long, defeated breath, and for a moment no one moved. Then James pulled Diep into his arms again, this time with a vow burning in his eyes. "No more secrets. No more running. Whoever tried to hurt me, whoever wants to end us, I'll find them, and I'll protect you. Always."